Welcome everyone to the Squared Circle Podcast mini pod. So it's our first little mini episode where we're going to recap this week's Raw and Smackdown. So these are going to be done weekly just in order to fill everything between the time of our podcast with Brad. So Alex, do you want to get things rolling with Raw?
Raw opened with Goldberg coming out, and Heyman was there, and they were talking back and forth. Heyman tricked Goldberg thinking Lesnar was going to be there, but actually Rusev came out instead. They came out, they were talking back and forth, and eventually they started fighting. Goldberg hits Rusev with a jackhammer, and then a surprise spear on Heyman.
I thought it was weird that, of all people, it was Rusev. Like, I don't know why, because he's obviously a heel and everything, but I just didn't expect Rusev to randomly come out for Paul Heyman. Like, what's the benefit for Rusev?
Yeah, and I also thought that it was weird that basically Rusev came out, wasn't selling anything from the Hell in a Cell. Actually, none of them...
Now
I think about
anything.
it, nobody sold any of their
Not
injuries from Hell in a Cell. They just came out like yesterday they were sleeping.
They all pulled a Roman and didn't sell. They did no sells.
Alright, so on to more important things, I guess. Foley came out and he was, they had a little segment in the ring with Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho, and they were talking about Survivor Series teams for Raw. And then eventually this brought out Roman Reigns, who wasn't selling Hell in a Cell. And they kind of were going back and forth, making fun of each other, which was pretty entertaining. And then it led to Jericho challenging Roman for the U.S. title match, and Foley made it official. Or for the U.S. title in a match. And Foley made it official.
I'm okay with that.
So we'll see what happens later in that show. Then they had a battle royal to determine one of the spots for the Raw, main event, tag team, or not tag team, Survivor Series team match. And in the end, it was Braun Strowman against Sami Zayn. Sami tried to do the Chris Benoit Big Show elimination from Royal Rumble 2004. Mm-hmm. It failed. Strowman threw Sami Zayn out of the ring, and Braun Strowman is on the Survivor Series team.
It's kind of interesting, this little Sami Zayn, Braun Strowman. Sorry. Braun Strowman dynamic. I merged their words together. But anyways, it's interesting. I'm kind of curious about it, so I'm okay with this.
I'll get to Sami Zayn later in the show. I have a theory. Okay, so next Charlotte came out on her throne. Obviously, she beat Sasha, so she's the new women's champion, thank God. And she's just talking about the women's Survivor Series match that's going to be happening. She's calling out Nikki Bella and everybody. And then Bayley came out to congratulate Charlotte on winning and also wanted to challenge her for the belt. Charlotte basically said Bayley is nothing, and then said that she has to face one of the people on their team for Survivor Series, and it was Nia Jax. So we had Nia Jax versus Bayley, and basically Nia Jax destroyed her.
But it was funny because they were saying like, oh, this is Bayley's biggest challenge ever and stuff, but meanwhile Bayley beat her when they had their match in NXT, so it was kind of funny for the people that follow NXT.
Yeah, like Bayley already beat Nia Jax, and they were even doing like the headlock submission spot, which was the finish of that NXT match.
Yeah.
The TakeOver one in London. But Nia Jax just beat her with a Samoan drop.
What a good takeover. Anyways, that was a good takeover.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about the main event.
All right, so the main event, it's for the U.S. title. Roman Reigns against Chris Jericho.
With the best ending ever.
How can everything be the best ending?
Because it involves my favorite.
Oh my god. Okay, we'll be getting to that very shortly. So Roman against Chris Jericho, and basically the end of the match. It's kind of back and forth. Jericho looked pretty good in the match, and then Roman goes to hit a spear, hits a spear, and then Kevin Owens runs in, attacks Reigns, and gets the DQ on Jericho, so Roman retains the belt. Then after the match, Jericho and Kevin Owens start beating down Roman Reigns. And then...
Seth Rollins comes out!
Oh, another guy that didn't sell his injuries.
No one sold. So if one isn't going to sell, all of
the only
them
person
don't sell.
That didn't get a chance to not sell was Sasha. She wasn't even on. I'm sure if she was on, she'd be
She
prancing
probably
around.
was. No, she probably was actually hurt.
Mm-hmm. So Seth comes out for the save, hits two suicide dives on Kevin Owens, runs in, goes to hit a pedigree on Jericho. Owens saves Jericho, and then Rollins and Reigns have a stare down.
And everyone's talking about the Shield.
For some reason. I don't even know why people care that much anymore, but...
Because the Shield was actually awesome. Like, they really were. So, like, any time there's, like, the potential of a reunion or something, it's just, like, the best thing.
All I see when I see this Seth Roman stare down is another way they're trying to get Roman over. It has nothing to do with Seth. It's like Seth is an afterthought. It's how else can we get Roman over? Oh, we'll tease a Shield reunion.
Well,
everyone
exactly,
will love that.
Because everyone loves Seth. Like, really, Seth is over. So if Seth is, like, aligning himself with Roman or saving him or whatever, then it gives Roman that opportunity to possibly not be hated. Not that I think he should be hated, but you know what I mean.
I just don't think that it's going to work. Maybe for the casuals, but in the end, it's still the same Roman. He's still going to be pushed over everyone. So that was Raw. And we'll go over our overall thoughts at the end of the show. So let's move over to SmackDown now. And SmackDown opens with a huge pop for James Ellsworth. He comes out to the ring, trying to apologize to Dean for costing Dean the match against AJ the week before to be the number one contender. Dean comes out. He's saying, it's okay. Don't worry about it and all that stuff. AJ comes out and he gets a massive pop as usual. Says that he wants to get Ellsworth to turn on Ambrose, saying Ambrose doesn't like him, and Ambrose wanted AJ to beat him up and all that stuff. And in the end, AJ shoves Ellsworth into Dean, throws him out, and then hits a phenomenal forearm on Ambrose.
Can we talk about the pops for a second? Because Ellsworth's pop was huge. Like, Dean could have been anybody coming in off the street compared to Ellsworth. I mean, AJ's pop, well-deserved and amazing. But Ellsworth is super over right now. And I just remember when he was getting interviewed backstage afterwards, and they called him James Ellis.
Oh my God.
Oh, we died. That was hilarious. That was it was blooper city on SmackDown.
Yeah, the commentary and the backstage interviews were a mess.
Not only that, even Miz made a screw up in his Miz TV segment too, when he said there was nobody on. I don't know. He said something, and instead of saying SmackDown, he meant to say
Team SmackDown, and he said Team Raw. Like, how dare you not want me to be on Team Raw or something like that? And it didn't make sense at all.
No, but it was like that kind of night.
Okay, so then our first match was Randy Orton against Kane in a no DQ match. Basically, there was filler for about 2 minutes, and then the Wyatts teleported in, and Randy got an RKO on Kane, and Randy won, and then they all proceeded to beat down Kane, and then pose at the end.
The pose was weird. It really was. It just looked strange. Randy doing his pose on the ropes, and then Bray is like on the ground in the ring after he just Sister Abigail'd Kane and
Abigail?
everything. Whatever. Sister Abigail'd Kane. It was just, it's strange.
But the crowd popped for it.
Well, because it's
I think it was just because it was so, like, odd.
Well, yeah, because, like, you don't expect it. Like, with Daniel Bryan, when he joined the Wyatts, you knew that he was going to join the Wyatts and then, like, break them from within.
Well, I'm sure that's what Randy's going to do, too.
Totally, but it just seems strange with Randy for some reason. I don't know if it's the lack of, like, a beard. Like, he's got, like, a very small beard. I don't know if that's what it is, but it's just strange.
I kind of like it for the time being.
I like it, but it's strange.
So then we move on to Alexa Bliss and Carmella against Becky Lynch and Nikki. This was a short match, and Alexa Bliss did a DDT on Becky Lynch and pinned her.
Yeah, it gave her, exactly, it gave her that edge over her going into the title match. But Alexa Bliss is awesome right now. Everything she's doing is really good. So I think that was the right ending to that match.
I like the little promo they did after Alexa and Carmella.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Where they were running down all the women. They
were interviewing each other.
Yeah.
They're like, so Carmella, blah, blah, blah. Like, it was really,
I like Carmella
really good.
calling out Bayley, even though they're real life best friends.
Exactly.
And it's so out in the open that it just made it funny. So that was good. And then Naomi is the last member of the SmackDown women's team, and Natalia's named the official coach.
This whole Natalya thing's, like, interesting. One week she's just saying song lyrics, like, over and over again, just different songs. And then this week she's doing all this weird, creepy stuff about her cat. I don't know. Like, it's funny. I like it better than her being a complete heel, but still. I don't know where they're going to go with her for that.
Our next match, American Alpha beats I can't even say it. The Spirit Squad. I was stumbling all over the place there. For, I don't know, it's one of the spots on the Survivor Series team.
Tag team.
And that was about it. And then we had The Miz, had Miz TV with special guest Daniel Bryan. So Daniel Bryan announces the competitors for the SmackDown team, which are Randy Orton, Baron Corbin, who had his own little promo video, which is interesting. Bray Wyatt, Dean Ambrose, and AJ Styles. So when I see this, like, and especially Kevin Owens and Jericho are going to be on the Raw team, and Roman, and I'm guessing Seth will be the 5th member, which they haven't announced. It doesn't look like there's going to be any title matches on this next pay-per-view.
No, because the champions are in that match.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's kind of strange.
But they've been kind of doing that push towards the belt is not the most important part of the pay-per-view. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what's happening. Like, they basically don't put the title match as the main event anymore. At least not necessarily like the World Heavyweight Championship or whatever. Like, the girls ended the pay-per-view last week. So it'd be interesting. I think it'd be the first time that there aren't any belts on the line ever.
Well, there's going to be one title, and we'll get to that in a minute. So Miz is upset because he's not on the team, and Daniel says Miz is afraid to fight, and then they kind of do like a rehash of their talking smack.
That amazing promo.
Little
Miz's
interaction.
Best work ever.
So Miz is saying Daniel Bryan's scared, and that Daniel's saying that Miz isn't he's not as good at wrestling as, some of the other guys.
And not as deserving. Didn't he say that he didn't deserve it? I thought that.
Yeah, basically he was just running him down.
Yeah.
And then he tells him to sit while Dolph Ziggler defends the Intercontinental title in an open challenge. So Kurt Hawkins is the one who answers the challenge. The bell rings, walks into a super kick from Ziggler, and he gets pinned. That's
what
his
a worst debut match ever. Like, why would they do that? They built him up for weeks to come in and job to Ziggler in 25 seconds.
Yeah, at least if they had a decent length match, then even if he loses,
He
it's like,
still
oh,
looks
look how
good.
good Kurt Hawkins
Yeah.
looked. Instead, he looked like a fool.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that. That was dumb.
So then Ziggler says that he's going to issue an open challenge to any superstar on Raw at Survivor Series for the Intercontinental title, and Miz is upset. So my theory is that Sami Zayn is going to answer the challenge since he's not on the Raw team. So we'll
Oh.
see Ziggler against Sami Zayn for the
That would
IC
be
title.
good anyway. They would have a good match anyways, but that'd be interesting because it'd be the first time that there's like a crossover where potentially either the belt is going to travel back to Raw or he's going to stay on SmackDown.
I wonder how
If
they're
they
going to address
feel
that.
like he's being buried on one of the shows, they might move him over. Um, if obviously Ziggler drops the belt. If he doesn't drop the belt, then this is a non-issue. But I'd be definitely okay with that. I think that those two would have perfect chemistry in the ring for a good match.
Yeah. And I think that it'd be good for Sami because now that Strowman's in the Survivor Series match, what's Sami have to do on that show at all?
Nothing.
If not
Yeah.
challenge for the title.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's going to be him.
I did think, though, when Ziggler issued the challenge, I thought that he also made a mistake and said Raw instead of SmackDown. So for a while, I was like, why is everyone screwing this up? And then you're like, no, he was issuing the challenge to Raw Superstars. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But at this point, there had been so many mistakes that it was really easy to completely miss the challenge because of the way everything was rolling out that night.
So our next match, the Usos against the returning Headbangers in a qualifying match for the Survivor Series team, and the Usos made quick work of the Headbangers and are on the SmackDown team.
Yeah, I feel like they just needed someone and they didn't want to bury any of the actual like teams on the show, so they picked the Headbangers because if they lose, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, makes sense. So we go to our main event, Dean Ambrose versus AJ Styles. If Dean Ambrose wins, he's the number one contender for AJ Styles' title. And this time, James Ellsworth was banned from ringside. Earlier in the night, Dean Ambrose had thrown him out and said if every man with two hands can call an Uber and get a ride home or something, which was funny. It's a play on James Ellsworth's little line. So they had a good back and forth match, and then eventually Ellsworth made his way out to the arena, and security immediately ran out to try and take him away, and then they ran around kind of throughout the fans and in the crowd, and then made their way back towards the ring. This time AJ kind of almost like body checked or did a pounce on Ellsworth over the announce table, ran back in, and then Dean gave him the dirty deeds and pinned him. So my question, though, is Daniel Bryan said James Ellsworth is banned from any interaction ringside and all this stuff, and he still ran out. Do you think AJ is going to try and complain?
I do, and I think that he's going to win his case, and it's going to reverse the decision in terms of Dean being the number one contender. Like, I think that Daniel Bryan's going to say, I warned you that if he comes out, that there's going to be problems. So, yeah, you win the match. Congratulations. But he still interfered. So you're not the number one contender. Like, I think that they have to build it that way for it to make sense. Because otherwise, what's the point in banning him from ringside? He showed up and then there's no repercussions from that. So I don't think that it'll go unnoticed. I think AJ will bring it up in probably the most awesome, incredible way ever because he is the best. So, and he is the best. And actually, just a side note on AJ Styles, we actually met him 5 years ago today. This is back when he was in TNA, but he was injured. And they had a show here, and we got to meet him. And we were trying to figure out the date and trying to see if we had any pictures or anything. And then it randomly popped up for me this morning on Facebook that we had met him 5 years ago. So just a cool little side note about that.
All right, so now that we've gone through both shows, what did you think overall of Raw this week?
I thought Raw was okay. It was better than it's been. I think like they did a few things a little bit differently in terms of like storyline type stuff, where you're starting to see things change and how people are interacting with each other. So I thought that it was better than it's been in the past couple weeks.
How did you feel about the way they were building towards the Survivor Series teams? Like Mick Foley kind of, well, I guess they did on SmackDown too, but Foley kind of announcing some of the guys that'll be on the Raw team, and they had one qualifying match for the main singles team. Um, so what did you think about how they? What do you think of the team so far? So on Raw, I believe it's Roman, Kevin Owens, Jericho, and Strowman,
Yep.
and the fifth member to be determined.
I think that that's who I would have picked. I mean, Strowman only because they've been pushing him lately as a monster. Um, and then I agree. I think that Seth will be the final participant or whatever on their team. But I don't really think I would have picked anybody else. I think that those are their top guys right now. So their team makes sense. I do think that it's strange that we don't know who's on the women's team. Like, we know that it's obviously Charlotte, like Nia Jax and Bayley, and that's it. Um, I would assume that Sasha is going to be on the team, but like we know the entire team for SmackDown, including a coach.
Yeah.
So like it's weird the way that that's not balanced, but the men's teams are balanced. Like aside from not knowing one person, the teams are complete already. So it's just that I find a little strange.
How do you feel about the fact that Charlotte is the captain on the Raw team, and Becky, who's a champion, is not the captain? It's actually Nikki. You think that kind of makes me feel weird.
It's weird. I'm not surprised that Nikki's the captain, and I don't know if it's just a leadership type thing, and they don't think that Becky would be a good choice for captain, even though she's the champion. I don't know if that changed when her illness happened a few weeks ago. Like, they might have been going in the direction of having both champions as the actual, leaders. But when she went into the hospital, they kind of detoured to Nikki just in case she wouldn't be ready. I mean, I think Charlotte's the obvious choice for Raw. I don't think that even if Sasha was a champion, I don't think she would be a good, leader for the team. She doesn't have the same, charisma in terms of, screaming at people as they're going through the match in order to not lose, that kind of thing.
You know what would be amazing? Since there's still 2 open spots on the Raw team, if out of nowhere, Eva Marie joined Raw. Incredible.
Oh, no.
Incredible.
Yeah.
She's the greatest of all time.
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, her suspension is over, isn't it?
Yeah, she was making a movie. Yeah,
that's right.
But she should be back soon. Okay, so that's overall, I thought Raw was nothing that special, but I wasn't offended by it. I wish Jericho would have won the U.S. title because that would have just been incredible. Plus, it's the only title he hasn't won.
I know.
But, of course, Roman has to keep it. So let's move on to SmackDown. Overall thoughts on SmackDown?
I liked SmackDown. I tend to like SmackDown. This whole thing with James Ellsworth I think is awesome. I think that AJ's getting what he needs by being on that show. Like, he's really kind of coming out, and this is like who you were expecting to lead the club and all that kind of stuff. Like, he's really been given space to do that and develop his character. I think The Miz is incredible, and Maurice, her facial expressions and when she reacts to things, phenomenal, just amazing. And the matches were good, and I'm digging this whole Orton Wyatt thing. Even though I find it weird, I'm intrigued by it. So I liked SmackDown. I mean, aside from the whole, that kept making me, I can't even talk now, thinking
just
about
everybody
it.
Messing up.
But everybody was messing up, which is causing me to mess up right now, thinking about it. But yeah, like, those were rare. Like, JBL aside, for the most part, The Miz never makes a mistake ever in talking. To mess up James Ellsworth's name and calling him James Ellis. She probably got in trouble for that.
That was like her first backstage interview too.
Yeah, I feel bad. I think that she was nervous.
Dasha from NXT.
I feel like she was nervous and it threw her off and she just kind of rolled with it. And then Ambrose came in and fixed it.
Yeah, like he saved
later.
it.
He saved her.
Like, they didn't make it awkward. He was just like, oh yeah, James Ellsworth is,
right,
going to do whatever.
Right. So, I mean, that was
like,
good.
Making fun of her.
Yeah, he didn't let her drown. So at least, like, there was that. But aside from that, I thought that SmackDown was really good this week.
So if you were to pick, if you were to recommend one show for our viewers or listeners out there, I should say, to check out, what would you say?
I'm Team Blue all the way. SmackDown.
I would go Team Blue too. I thought overall the show had more of a story from start to finish. Mm-hmm. The James Ellsworth story leading into the main event. Whereas on Raw, the match they had with Roman and Jericho kind of was it just kind of got created out of nowhere, and then it just had its own ending. Rollins coming in, there was no tease of that ever happening from before. Just suddenly he ran out. So I feel like SmackDown had more of a story from start to finish. You kind of knew where it was going the whole time. Yeah,
like Raw's kind of choppy. So between segments, like it doesn't flow. Like there's more of a natural flow with SmackDown. They kind of talk about things rolling throughout the night and then things develop and happen, but they make sense. So Ziggler coming out during the Miz TV and then, like having a little match to prove that he's, more worth it than the Miz or whatever, showing off that kind of thing. That makes sense. And then it just kind of rolls. Whereas for Raw, it's like Rusev randomly pops up out of nowhere. Rollins is randomly popping up out of nowhere. Jericho suddenly has a match with Roman Reigns, which makes no sense considering the whole storyline is that eventually it's going to be Kevin Owens and Jericho, right? So why are we being thrown into this like sidetracked match where we know like 97% certainty that Roman's going to win, like that kind of thing. So I just found it makes it a little harder to get behind Raw when it's that choppy. But it was better than what it usually is. So, I mean, they're improving. It's just not where it needs to be, I don't think.
All right, so there we have it. That is our recap. Looks like this week SmackDown is the winner. So stay tuned for the next little set of mini podcasts. We'll try to do them once a week or once every 2 weeks, depending on our schedules. And we will see you on the next Squared Circle podcast.
All right. See you later, everybody.